That night in the upper room, hours before the betrayal, Jesus did something the official Gospels never recorded. He gathered his closest disciples, not the 12, but the inner three, Peter, James, and John, the ones who had witnessed the transfiguration, the ones who had seen what others were never meant to see, and in the flickering lamplight, with Roman soldiers already searching the streets below, he gave them 3 sacred items, 3 physical objects, charged with a frequency so powerful that the Archons, those invisible rulers of this material prison, could not come near anyone who possessed them. For almost 2,000 years, these 3 items were systematically erased from every official teaching. The early church councils debated them in secret. The Nag Hammadi texts hint at them. The Gospel of Philip describes their function, but you were never supposed to know they existed. You were never supposed to understand that Jesus did not just teach words. He transmitted tools, actual instruments of liberation designed specifically for those carrying the divine spark. If you have ever felt like something unseen was draining your energy, like invisible forces were blocking your progress every time you tried to rise, if you have ever sensed that this world operates according to rules that seem designed to keep you small and asleep, then what I am about to reveal is not coincidence. You found this video because the spark inside you recognized the frequency of this information before your mind could understand it. If that resonates with you right now, comment the words "I feel it" below. Let me know you are here. Let me know the recognition is already beginning. What you are about to learn are the 3 sacred items Jesus gave to the chosen ones to repel Archons. 3 objects, 3 frequencies, 3 keys that the church banned because they work not as symbols, not as metaphors, as actual tools of spiritual protection that you can use tonight. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly how to activate each one. But first, you need to understand why these items were hidden in the first place. To understand why Jesus gave these 3 items to the chosen ones, you first need to understand the nature of the prison you were born into. This is not metaphor. This is not poetry. According to the ancient Gnostic texts that were buried in the Egyptian desert for 600 years, this material world is not the creation of the true God. It is a construct, a carefully designed system built to harvest the energy of divine sparks trapped in human bodies. The true source of all existence, what the Gnostics called the monad, exists far beyond this material realm. The monad is pure consciousness, undivided unity, the infinite light from which all authentic creation flows. But between the monad and this world stands a false creator, the demiurge, an entity who genuinely believes himself to be the supreme God, yet is merely an architect of limitation. He did not create your soul. He created the cage your soul is trapped within, and the demiurge does not work alone. Beneath him operate the Archons. These are not demons in the way religion taught you. They are more like cosmic administrators, frequency controllers. They manage the systems that keep divine sparks recycled through incarnation after incarnation, never remembering who they truly are, never accumulating enough spiritual power to break free. But here is what they do not want you to know. The Archons are not all powerful. They operate within strict limitations. There are specific frequencies they cannot approach, specific vibrations that cause their influence to dissolve like shadow before light. And Jesus, who the Gnostics understood as an emanation sent directly from the monad, knew exactly what those frequencies were. He did not come merely to teach philosophy. He came to hand the imprisoned sparks actual tools of liberation. This is where the 3 sacred items enter the story. The Gospel of Philip, one of the most important texts discovered at Nag Hammadi in 1945, speaks directly about sacred objects used in the early Christian mysteries. These were not symbolic rituals. They were energetic technologies, and the 3 items Jesus gave to his inner circle that night in the upper room were specifically designed to create a frequency field that Archons cannot penetrate. The first sacred item was oil, but not ordinary oil. This was consecrated oil infused with specific intention and used in a precise manner. The Gospel of Philip states clearly that the chrism, the anointing oil, is superior even to baptism. It says that we are called Christians because of the chrism, not because of baptism. Think about that for a moment. The very name Christian comes from the anointing oil, from the Greek word Christos, meaning the anointed one. But here is the critical part they never taught you in any church. The oil was not just poured on the head as a symbol. According to the Gnostic texts, the oil was applied to specific points on the body: the forehead, the heart center, the hands. These are not random locations. These are the points where your energy field connects most directly with the material realm. These are the doorways through which archonic influence enters. When consecrated oil is applied to these points with conscious intention, it creates a seal, a frequency barrier. The Gospel of Philip describes this as receiving the light. Those who receive the light cannot be seen by the Archons and cannot be detained by them. Read that again in your mind. Cannot be seen, cannot be detained. This is not poetry. This is technical instruction for spiritual protection. The early church kept the oil. They kept the ritual of anointing. But they removed the knowledge of why it works. They turned it into an empty ceremony performed by priests who themselves do not understand its function. They made you dependent on their rituals instead of teaching you that you can consecrate oil yourself tonight and seal your own energy field against archonic interference. The second sacred item Jesus gave was salt. And before you dismiss this as too simple, understand that salt appears throughout the ancient texts as one of the most powerful substances for spiritual protection. Jesus himself said, "You are the salt of the earth, but if salt loses its savor, how shall it be salted?" This was not agricultural advice. This was encoded instruction. Salt operates on the principle of purification and boundary creation. In the physical world, salt preserves and protects against decay. In the energetic world, it functions identically. The Archons feed on low-frequency emotional energy, fear, anxiety, despair, confusion. These emotions create an energetic decay, a rotting of your light field that attracts their attention and allows their influence to penetrate. Salt, when used with conscious intention, creates a boundary they cannot cross. The ancient practitioners knew this. They placed salt at thresholds around sleeping spaces, and most importantly, they consumed salt that had been blessed with specific words of power. When salt enters your body carrying the frequency of divine intention, it purifies from within. It raises your base frequency above the level where archonic influence can attach. But here is what makes you dangerous to them. The moment you understand the mechanism, you can apply it yourself. You do not need a priest. You do not need a church. You need salt intention and the knowledge that was stolen from you. The third sacred item is the one they tried hardest to erase: bread. But again, not ordinary bread. The breaking of bread in the early Christian communities was not merely a memorial meal. The Gospel of Philip speaks of the sacred meal as a mystery that unifies the fragmented sparks. When chosen ones consume bread that has been charged with collective intention and conscious presence, something happens at the cellular level. You must understand your physical body is not separate from your energy body. They are interpenetrated. What you consume physically affects your frequency directly. The Archons know this, which is why the modern food system is designed to keep your frequency low. Processed substances, chemical additives, foods stripped of life force. This is not accident. This is architecture. The bread Jesus broke was made with intention. It was consumed in a state of conscious presence, and when it entered the bodies of those gathered, it unified their fields. It created a collective frequency so high that the text says they became one body, not metaphorically, energetically. The Archons cannot attack a unified field. They specialize in isolation and fragmentation. When sparks come together and share consecrated substance, they become untouchable. Now, here is where it gets interesting. The early church kept all three elements. They kept the oil in their anointing rituals. They kept the salt in their baptismal water. They kept the bread in their communion. But they did something devastating. They removed your authority to use these items yourself. They taught you that only ordained priests could consecrate. They taught you that the power was in their rituals, not in the substances combined with your own divine intention. This was the great theft. Not the items themselves, but the knowledge that you have the same authority Jesus gave to the chosen ones that night. The spark within you is the same spark that was within them. The monad does not recognize hierarchy. It recognizes frequency. And tonight, you are going to learn exactly how to reclaim what was taken. Before I give you the exact method to activate these three sacred items, you need to understand something crucial about how they actually work. This is not magic in the way the modern world uses that word. This is frequency science that the ancients understood, and that modern physics is only beginning to rediscover. Everything in this material realm vibrates at a specific frequency. Your thoughts have frequency. Your emotions have frequency. Your words, when spoken with intention, create measurable waves that interact with the field around you. The Archons operate within a specific frequency band. They can only perceive and influence beings who are vibrating within their range. When you raise your frequency above their band, you become invisible to them. Not metaphorically, literally invisible to their perception. The three sacred items work because they are frequency anchors. Oil carries and holds intention in its molecular structure. Salt creates boundaries through its crystalline matrix. Bread, when prepared and consumed consciously, unifies fragmented energy into coherent wholeness. Jesus did not choose these items randomly. He chose them because they are the three most effective physical substances for shifting human frequency beyond archonic reach. But here is the critical part. They do not want you to understand. The items alone are not enough. A bottle of oil sitting on your shelf does nothing. Salt in your kitchen cabinet is just a mineral. Bread from the store carries the frequency of the factory that produced it. What activates these items is your conscious intention, combined with specific words of power. If you are feeling the activation happening right now, if something in you is recognizing the truth of what I am sharing, comment the words "I am ready" below. This marks your commitment to receiving what comes next. Now let me show you exactly how to use each item. For the oil, you will need pure olive oil. This is the oil used throughout the ancient traditions because of its specific molecular structure. Take a small amount in your hands. Before you apply it anywhere, you must first charge it with intention. Hold the oil and speak these words aloud. I consecrate this oil as a seal of the monad. Let it carry the frequency of divine protection. Let it render me invisible to those who would harvest my light. The words matter, but the state of consciousness behind them matters more. You cannot recite this like a grocery list and expect results. You must feel the reality of what you are declaring. You are a divine spark temporarily housed in matter. The monad is your true source. The oil is becoming an extension of that connection. Once charged, apply the oil to 3 points. First, the center of your forehead. This is where the Archons attempt to influence your thoughts to insert doubts, fears, and distractions that keep you identified with the material illusion. Second, the center of your chest. This is your heart field, the most powerful electromagnetic generator in your body, the point where your divine spark connects most directly with this realm. Third, your palms. These are the points through which you give and receive energy in every interaction. When all 3 points are sealed, you have created a triangle of protection, a frequency barrier that disrupts archonic perception. For the salt, take natural sea salt or mineral salt, not processed table salt, which has been stripped of its crystalline structure. Hold the salt in your hand and speak these words. I consecrate this salt as a boundary of light. Let it purify my field and create a threshold that cannot be crossed by those who feed on fear. Place a small amount of this consecrated salt in the corners of your sleeping space. This is where you are most vulnerable, where your consciousness leaves the body during sleep and can be manipulated by archonic influence. The salt creates an energetic boundary around your resting place. But more importantly, place a small pinch of the consecrated salt on your tongue and let it dissolve. As it enters your body, feel it spreading through your system, raising your internal frequency, creating purification at the cellular level. This is not symbolic. Salt physically interacts with your body's electrical system. When charged with conscious intention, it carries that frequency into every cell. For the bread, this requires the most preparation. You cannot use commercial bread filled with preservatives and produced without consciousness. Ideally, you would make bread yourself, infusing every step of the process with intention. But if that is not possible, find the simplest, most natural bread available. Before consuming it, hold the bread and speak these words. I consecrate this bread as the body of unity. Let it dissolve the fragmentation within me. Let it raise my frequency to the coherence of the monad. As I consume this, let me remember that I am not separate. I am one with the source. Then eat the bread slowly, consciously, feeling it become part of your physical form. Feel the intention you placed into it spreading through your body. This is the true communion, not a ritual performed by others on your behalf, but a direct act of frequency elevation that you perform yourself. Right now, place your hand over the center of your chest. Feel the warmth there. Feel the subtle vibration of your own heart field. This is the spark the Archons want to keep asleep. This is the fragment of monad light that makes you dangerous to their system of control. Now here is what you must understand about resistance. If you are feeling something telling you this is too simple, if a voice in your mind is saying this cannot possibly work or suggesting you do this tomorrow instead of tonight, recognize that voice for what it is. That is not your voice. That is the pattern protecting itself. That is the archonic influence attempting to prevent you from taking action. The fact that you feel resistance is actually proof that this information is real. If it were nonsense, there would be no resistance. The system does not waste energy fighting things that pose no threat. Your resistance is evidence that you are approaching something genuine. The Pistis Sophia, one of the most detailed Gnostic texts, describes how the Archons use thoughts and emotions as hooks to maintain control. They insert fear. They insert doubt. They insert procrastination. These are not random mental events. They are strategic interference designed to prevent you from raising your frequency beyond their reach. Tonight, you will break that pattern. Tonight, you will use the same 3 items Jesus gave to the chosen ones, and tonight you will discover that the protection they provide is not ancient history. It is available to you right now, in this moment, if you are willing to act. Let me bring everything together for you now. Jesus gave the chosen ones 3 sacred items to repel Archons: oil to seal the entry points of your energy field, salt to purify your frequency and create boundaries that cannot be crossed, bread to unify your fragmented self into coherent wholeness. 3 items, 3 frequencies, 3 keys that the church systematically buried because they transfer power directly to you. The Gospel of Philip recorded these mysteries. The Nag Hammadi texts preserved them. For 600 years, they waited beneath the Egyptian sand until the world was ready to receive them again. And tonight, you are receiving them. Not as history, not as philosophy, as practical tools you can use before you sleep. You need to do this tonight, not tomorrow, not next week, tonight. Right now, as you are watching this, your consciousness is in a specific state. You have been absorbing this information. Your frequency has been rising with every word. Tonight, while that activation is still fresh, is when you must act. If you wait until tomorrow, the pattern will reassert itself. The Archons will use the night to make you forget. They will insert doubt. They will make this feel like a dream you once had rather than instructions you received. Do not let that happen. Tonight, consecrate the oil and seal your 3 points. Tonight, charge the salt and place it in your space and on your tongue. Tonight, bless the bread and consume it in conscious unity with the monad. If you do this tonight and feel the shift, comment the words, "I am sealed," below. Share your experience. Another chosen one scrolling through these comments might need to see your words to trust the process. Subscribe and turn on notifications. The algorithm does not want this information spreading. Every subscription is an act of resistance against the system that profits from keeping you asleep. The 3 sacred items are yours now. Jesus gave them to the chosen ones. I have passed them to you. What you do with them is your choice. But tonight, use them tonight. The monad is waiting to recognize you, to welcome you home, to show you that you were never truly trapped. You were always one.